Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Almighty Allah, the entirely merciful and especially merciful, dear viewers across the globe, I greet you with the greeting of peace, the greeting of all the messengers that had been selected by Almighty Allah to carry His message to all humans, the greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace be with you all. Ameen, ameen. Welcome to Treasures, the treasures from the Holy Quran. You are here to learn and to take some of these treasures and as much as you can. However, we recommend you to understand the message well, to understand the nature of these treasures, to know that it's not something that you can sell. You can send it for free. You can teach it to others for free. And in this way, you will get a lot of rewards from Almighty Allah, the Lord of all humans. You don't need the humans. You need only the support of Almighty Allah. Here I would like to help you and help myself to find really the main sources of problems of humans. And if you remember, there's in one episode that I mentioned that it's not just the humans, but it is the jinn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent this Quran not only to humans. Surprisingly, to many people that they did not know this truth, but it is there. Simply because they don't have access to Quran, they don't have access to this quality knowledge that we are spreading here, and we want everybody to share and to learn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the third ayah in Surah al chapter that's called chapter al it's ayah number 3. Ayah number 3. We covered ayah number 1 and 2. And it is very important to know this because they managed to detect the sources of problems that are, or some of them, problems that are within us. What causes problems? They discovered that by themselves, according to this verse, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وأنه تعالى جد ربنا ما اتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا. And ayah number 4 وأنه كان يقول سفيهنا على الله شططا. Now they mention two things here. First, that Almighty Allah, He has never took a wife, and He has never had a son, a child. This is number 1. Number 2, وأنه كان يقول سفيهنا, that caliber of people, the caliber of the ones that who used to say nonsense, they used to say a lot of deviant things about Almighty Allah out of lack of knowledge. So now we can identify two things are happening here. First of all, they discovered that one source of corruption in the minds of people is their belief system. Because most of the humans, if not all of them, when they behave according to what they have in their minds. If they have something good, they will act good. If they have something bad, they will act bad, which is natural. Because we are the sub-product of what we have in our minds. In other words, the belief system that we have. If we don't guarantee that it is pure and correct 100%. Not 99%, 100% it should be correct. Because if you have this strong belief that Allah, God, has done this and this and this, and all these things that you imagined are false, it would be very easy for you to misinterpret what is happening in the world around you. For the people who think that God has a wife, if you think that God has a wife, right, that means this is human. And you will find that God has all these feelings that go through the nature of a human being, and this is not the case. This is the worst insult to God, to make him similar to us. He is not like us. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as early as possible in the Quran, you'll find this concept that Allah is one. So it's never two. Never Allah and his wife. Never Allah and his son. Never Allah and his daughter. Never Allah and his assistant. No. All these are forms of deviation, deviant thinking. And when we find that these deviant things are spreading here and there, when you meet with those people who have these beliefs and ask them, tell me, what is the source? How did you get this kind of knowledge? Who informed you that Allah has a son? The jinn themselves realized, according to this chapter that I'm focusing on now, that they realized that God has never ever done this. But it's only some wrong beliefs that came to the minds of the humans. These humans are living close to us, perhaps some of our neighbors, perhaps some of our classmates, perhaps some people who work with us here and there, yet they are there, they are living on this. And based on these wrong beliefs, and gently we'd find that the Muslims are doing their best in order to explain this to them. And the Quran has full of the verses that would explain this. One of the simple things that you can convey to the people that would lead them by default, that they would reject all these wrong concepts that they inherited from some sources, is to let them get access to the correct knowledge, to the pure knowledge that's guaranteed, that's 100% correct. And this is only available in the Islamic sources. Most of the people who have accessed this Quran and they started reading it, they would say that it really answered all the questions that I have or I had in my mind. And it really started correcting my wrong beliefs that I inherited from the first few pages. You'll find it talks to us as if it really knows what is in our hearts. And it does, no doubt. It's the book of Allah. It's from our Creator. Therefore, it really handles all the problems that we suffered in our lifetime. You would find a chapter like 112. It is one of the shortest chapters. It tells us one of the attributes and one of the names of Allah. The rule before that is that the more you know, the more you acquire genuine and correct knowledge about the Creator, the more you will be able to remove the wrong concepts from your mind. So the first step is trying to find what is the most authentic knowledge. Where can I find it? It is in the Quran and in the Sunnah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is number one. And before we get into number one, we agreed already that pure and correct knowledge is the way. It's not the knowledge that we inherited and we read and then we acquired and we learned at schools and universities and we learned from our parents. No. It is we have to know that this is the most authentic source. It carries the verbatim of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, we know that. We identified the source. And once we start, the first thing is that to know our Lord before we ask about ourselves, before we even know how our bodies and our eyes and our ears function in our bodies, and give us all these kind of sources and tools and ability to access knowledge. Before that, we have to know, identify the Creator. Once we know that, let's know Him. Let's know who is He. And every time we get a piece of information, provided that this information is genuine and is correct 100% about Him, the more we will correct the wrong things that we inherited and we learned from others. So we have, the more we know about Allah, the better for us. It's not the more we know about technology. It's not the more we know about geography. This may come later. It's not the more we know about medicine. This may come later. It's not as needed as now. The most important thing that's needed by humans is that to know about their Creator before they know about themselves. Because this is the way that guarantees that you have pure knowledge in your mind. And this purity that comes to the mind and the soul guarantees and filters out the incorrect knowledge that we learned and we acquired throughout our life. So, for example, in this chapter that I mentioned, chapter 112, Surah al Ikhlas, it tells us one quality about Allah that most of the people who are living nowadays, they don't know it, which is As-Samadu, Allahu Samadu. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. 4 names and qualities of Almighty Allah, combined in one very simple chapter, which is very essential for every human being in order to correct the beliefs that you inherited and I inherited and we learned from these sources. We have to correct what we have got. We have to guarantee before we access any reference, before we access any book, we have to guarantee that to have evidence that this is the most authentic one. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. It will be another burden to be added and to be accumulated to the knowledge that we got from other sources. From now on, if we take this step in our life to guarantee that the quality of the knowledge that I read is very pure and filtered, this has already been done in this book. We don't have a single evidence that anything has changed in this book. since it was revealed to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore, this is the guarantee in itself that this is pure knowledge and correct knowledge. Then after that, we start reading this, and that's what, for example, this program and many other programs are trying to do, to share correct knowledge, only genuine and authentic knowledge with people. We don't share any non-authentic knowledge with people. So I would advise you, for example, to go home and start reading and rereading these chapters that I mentioned, chapter number 112, because it focuses on the description of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He Himself described Himself in His own words. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. This chapter, that it negates that Allah had a wife, and it negates that Allah has a son, and it negates that Allah has a daughter, Allah has a minister, Allah has assistant. It negates all that things. So it negates many of the misconceptions that we inherited and we learned from incomplete or inaccurate sources. We have done this. I'm quite sure if one of us would have the ability to collect all the books that he or she read since she was born, just the books, let alone the stories, let alone the things that we heard from our parents, let alone what we read in the news, let alone other sources of information. If we collect them, then you will definitely, and you try to re-examine the authenticity of these books, you will find that they are unauthentic. And this tells you that the information that you had got throughout your education, throughout your life, are incorrect knowledge. That means because of this incorrect knowledge, I would say that not all of them are incorrect knowledge, but at least the majority of the knowledge that we got are incorrect, and this needs to be erased and replaced by other correct knowledge. And that's what we try to do our best. The best thing that we can do in our lives is to share the correct knowledge. That's why we thank Allah day and night for giving us access to this correct knowledge in His book, Al-Quran Al-Kareem. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.